Bill Spencer stands before the locked ICU doors like a storm breaking against a cliff, a man whose grief and fury have crystallized into resolve. Denied entry to his son's side and forbidden even a glimpse of his granddaughter's frail face, he feels the hospital's corridors closing in on him, each step echoing the endless litany of bureaucratic no's that separate him from the two people he loves most. The sign on the door, stark and unfeeling, reads "Authorized personnel only," but for Bill it might as well say "Enemies of Hope." As whispers ripple through the staff, angry nurses who see him as a meddlesome patriarch, doctors caught between protocol and compassion, administrators who tremble at the thought of defying hospital policy, Bill realizes that if he cannot enter the ICU, he will shatter its walls with the only weapon he truly possesses: the power of truth and the platform of Spencer Publications. Late that night, nestled in the steel-and-glass fortress of his office, Bill calls in a favor owed by an old friend, an investigative reporter now leading an independent news consortium. He lays out a daring plan: record the entire surgical procedure on Liam's chest, the operation that will determine whether his grandson Brian survives, and broadcast every moment, every heartbeat, every hesitation, to the world on Spencer TV. No more filtered press releases, no more sanitized hospital bulletins, just raw, unedited footage of the operating theater, the mask of the surgeon, the beeping of monitors, and the lifeblood of drama itself. The reporters, starved for an exclusive that will shake the city to its core, agree to smuggle high-definition cameras into the OR, disguised as ordinary video equipment, while a secure uplink sends the feed straight to Spencer TV's servers, ensuring that not a single frame is lost or censored. As dawn breaks over Los Angeles, viewers tuning into Spencer TV are met not with slick morning show banter, but with the harsh white lights of the operating room. The video opens on Dr. Finn Logan's gaunt face, half hidden behind his surgical mask, eyes darting between the chart propped on the stand and the sleeping forms of two patients, his daughter Luna's twin infant, and his nephew Liam, both lying vulnerable beneath the sterile drapes. Bill's voice, calm and narrating, cuts through the tension. This is the moment that every father dreads and every surgeon fights for. Watch closely. The cameras linger on Finn's trembling gloved hand as he lifts the scalpel, then pivot to capture the cramped space where the surgical team huddles around Liam's open chest. Suddenly, amidst the controlled choreography of medical precision, the footage shows Finn hesitate, his eyebrow furrowing as he glances over toward the incubator holding his own child, monitors beeping in rhythm with the tiny heart that could belong to either future or memory. That hesitation, that flicker of doubt, ignites a firestorm among viewers. Social media explodes. Hashtags like #FinnFalter and #TruthInHealing trend within minutes, and the comment sections fill with outrage. How could he hesitate between his daughter and Liam's life, demands one viewer. This man needs to be stripped of his medical license, writes another. Thousands tune in as the feeds switch to reaction shots. Disbelieving relatives pacing hospital lobbies, seasoned doctors watching the broadcast behind frosted glass, and Bill himself, his eyes steeled against tears, watching his gamble pay off. Within hours, the medical board is in crisis mode. Leaked excerpts of confidential memos flash across tabloid websites. Pundits accuse the hospital of a cover-up, claiming administrators buried the footage to protect their star surgeon. Patients cancel appointments in droves, and donors freeze their contributions. At mid-morning, a terse bulletin from the California Medical Board summons an emergency hearing, scheduled for the very next day in a downtown conference center typically reserved for corporate seminars. Wards that once hummed with the promise of healing now lie under a pall of suspicion. Hallways echo with hurried footsteps and whispered accusations. The reputation of Hope Memorial Hospital, once a beacon of cutting-edge research, hangs by a thread. In boardrooms, Lawyers shuffle through binders labeled liability exposure and communication strategy, but Bill Spencer has already claimed the narrative. His independent footage, streamed live and archived online, has become the primary source for every news outlet in the city, ensuring that no official statement can reclaim the spotlight. He has transformed from the desperate father begging for access into the man holding the reins of truth itself, dictating who is guilty and who is innocent in the court of public opinion. At the emergency hearing, the auditorium overflows with hospital executives, medical board members, patient advocates, and a media contingent thick as a forest. Bill sits in the front row, flanked by his legal team, his posture erect with newfound authority. He speaks first, his voice measured but imbued with the power of righteous indignation. "I was shut out of my own grandson's fate," he tells the panel, "but no policy, no locked door, can bar a father from the truth of what happens behind those curtains." He presents the full Tower surgical feed, edited only to remove personal identifiers so that the audience witnesses every moment of Finn's vacillation and every second of Liam's struggle for life. The crowd watching the large projection murmurs in shock at the unvarnished reality, the surgeon's humanity laid bare, torn between loyalties. When Bill finishes, he delivers the coup de grace. "I stand here not only for my family, but for every patient and family who deserves transparency, accountability, and the knowledge that those entrusted with their lives will never again hide behind protocols to conceal their failures." His words reverberate through the hall, silencing even the most skeptical board member. When the board deliberates, the scene is one of high-stakes drama. Members pace outside the chamber, debating whether to censure Finn, overhaul hospital governance, or even revoke Hope Memorial's accreditation. Patient advocacy groups cheer Bill's crusade for transparency, while some senior physicians cry foul, accusing him of grandstanding and jeopardizing medical confidentiality. Yet as the clock ticks down, the power of his recorded truth proves irresistible. The board issues a scathing rebuke of the hospital administration for obstructing Bill's access, mandates a comprehensive investigation into the decision-making process that led to Finn's hesitation, and places the entire surgical team on conditional leave pending review. More significantly, the board appoints Bill to a special oversight committee, granting him a seat at the table where medical ethics and hospital policy intersect. In one fell swoop, the man who was once barred from the ICU has become the arbiter of the institution's integrity. By evening, the headlines encapsulate the seismic shift from banned father to true keeper. Bill Spencer's price of transparency. Spencer TV expose triggers hospital overhaul. Board hands father the keys to hospital ethics. Across the city, conversations shift from sympathy for a grieving family to admiration and, for some, fear of Bill Spencer's newfound power. The hospital releases a brief statement pledging to cooperate fully with the investigation, but insiders whisper that the very mention of Bill's name now sends a shiver through the administrative ranks. In the hushed sterility of the ICU, the doors remain locked, but the balance of power has irrevocably changed. Bill Spencer no longer fights for a glimpse of his family. He holds the jagged edge of truth, and with it, the honor and future of Hope Memorial Hospital itself. Under the relentless glare of media scrutiny and the heavy toll of his own tormented conscience, Dr. Finn Logan found himself pacing the marble floors of Cliff House in the dead of night, each footstep echoing like an accusation in the cavernous halls where he and Steffi had once celebrated the beginning of their life together. He felt as though his heart had been carved from ice, each beat a frozen reminder of the hesitation that had cost his sister Luna her chance at normalcy and had ignited a scandal so vast that it threatened to swallow every fragment of his identity. Husband, physician, son, brother. When the cameras caught him at the hospital chapel clutching his head in his hands, when the headlines splashed across every screen, Finn falters, surgeons doubt, ICU indecision. The ideal of the man Steffi had fallen in love with began to dissolve before her eyes, and Finn, mortified by the realization that the public now saw him as a flawed hero unworthy of either respect or forgiveness, recognized that his mere presence under the same roof would suffocate them both. Driven by a need to protect Steffi from the toxic swirl of questions that even her carefully curated social feeds could not deflect, he packed a single duffel bag with hospital scrubs, a toothbrush, and the wedding photo they had taken on the pier at sunset. A photo he would not bring himself to burn, and slipped away from the place they had called home, his heart breaking with every door he closed behind him. He sought refuge in a modest apartment not far from the hospital, its linoleum floors cold and barren, yet less suffocating than the gilded walls of Cliff House, where every portrait and every ornament now felt like a testament to his failures. Meanwhile, Steffi found herself standing alone in the grand living room at dusk, the fading light painting the ocean waves beyond the balcony in shades of sorrow she had never known before. She stared at the empty master suite door, the silence inside as poignant as a funeral dirge, and for the first time in her life, she felt the full weight of the public's gaze slicing through her defenses. Where once she had rallied behind Finn with fierce determination, issuing statements to People magazine about his unwavering integrity, confronting news crews outside the hospital to demand compassion for a man torn between duty and family. Now her voice quivered in private, her confidence eroding beneath the onslaught of whispers from every social media platform, every dinner party, every glossy tabloid that insisted she choose between her husband's tainted reputation and her own future. Exhausted from playing the role of both wife and fierce advocate, she reached for a glass of wine by the fireplace and found herself dialing Bill Spencer's number with shaking hands. The familiar ring in her ear both a comfort and a confession of how far she had drifted from the life she had imagined. Bill answered on the second ring, his tone betraying concern beneath a veneer of businesslike calm. "Where is he?" he asked, voice low. Steffi closed her eyes, the spark of defiance she had once carried like armor now dulled by weariness. "He's gone, Bill," she whispered. "He left last night. He can't face this, and I'm tired of trying to hold it together." Bill's sigh crackled over the line like the ember of an old feud. "Steffi, you don't have to do this alone," he said. "You know I'll help you keep the foundation running, manage the board, keep the headlines off your back. Lean on me." At that moment, Steffi felt a cold tremor course through her spine. She hesitated, torn between loyalty to the man whose hand she would always reach for in the darkness and the reality that her lifeline had shifted to her father's deep pockets and his indomitable will. Bill did not hesitate. He reminded her of the endless gallery of donors who counted on her family's influence, of the hospital's research grants that depended on Spencer funding, of the lavish soirees and the board meetings where her voice still carried weight. Pulled by necessity, she found herself accepting his offer, allowing him to step into the role of protector she had always reserved for Finn. She promised him she would call him at dawn and hung up, her reflection in the television screen a ghostly echo of the warrior princess she once was. In the days that followed, Finn roamed the city's streets in a daze, walking from the sterile corridors of the hospital back to his empty apartment, staring at the peeling paint on the walls as though it held the answers to his failure. He ignored calls from Steffi and answered only when the calico cat that lived in the lobby of his building demanded to be fed. He questioned every choice he had ever made, medical school, his residency, the vow he had whispered at the altar to love Steffi until his last breath. He tried to reframe the moment in the or where he had wavered, telling himself that hesitation is human, that no one could be faulted for caring deeply about two lives at once. But the world was unforgiving, and the public believed that a man who hesitated to choose between his daughter and his patient was unfit to save either. Headlines shrieked accusations of moral cowardice. He even received a letter from the California Medical Board threatening suspension if he did not submit to an ethics review. Unable to bear the shame, he sent a terse text to his commanding officer at the hospital, "I'm on leave. Don't wait for me." Meanwhile, Steffi's determination to uphold the Spencer legacy in Finn's absence spiraled into a frantic struggle against time and opinion. She chaired emergency meetings with board members who eyed her with thinly veiled doubt, wielded statistics about patient satisfaction to defend their research wing, and attended brunches with society's elite to reinforce her family's philanthropic image. Yet each step she took under Bill's guidance reminded her that her power had shifted from the man she loved to the father she sometimes feared. She found herself deferring to Bill in decisions she would once have made on instinct: gala themes, speech revisions, strategic press releases. His presence loomed larger in her life as she realized that the financial network sustaining her ambitions was woven tightly around his fortune. She felt her heart tighten at every mention of his name, at every arrangement he brokered, wondering if the price of salvation lay in a sacrifice she had yet to recognize. As the public frenzy reached its peak, the precarious alliance between Bill and Steffi began to crack under the weight of their mutual interests. Bill's advisors, and even his own board at Spencer Publications, urged him to push harder, to exploit Finn's exile to install a more compliant ally at the hospital, someone who would never hesitate under the Orr lights. Steffi overheard one such conversation when she visited Bill's penthouse to finalize the press schedule. She glimpsed Bill's executive assistant loading legal files into a briefcase labeled ICU control measures. Her blood ran cold. She confronted Bill in his soaring office overlooking the city's skyline, her voice trembling with a fury she had not known she could summon. "You're not using this against him, are you?" she demanded. Bill's eyes, sharp as cut glass, met hers. "I'm protecting you and our family's legacy," he replied. "Sometimes you have to sacrifice a soldier to win a war." Steffi's heart sank as she realized the depth of Bill's pragmatism and the peril of her own reliance on him. She saw, in that gaze, the faintest flicker of hunger for power, a willingness to see her marriage undone if it served his ends. Far from Cliff House, Finn endured his own reckoning when Steffi's text finally reached him, "Meet me at the pier at midnight. Just you and me." He stood under the moonlit sky where they had once danced at their engagement party, the gentle lapping of waves a cruel mockery of the peace he once felt. She arrived in a coat drawn tight around her, her eyes swollen from sleepless nights. They faced each other beneath the slender arches of the pier, the world reduced to the space between them. Finn reached for her, his voice raw. "I should have fought harder, for Luna, for Liam, for us." Steffi shook her head, tears spilling free. "I've tried to fight for you, Finn. But I leaned on him, my father, because you weren't there. And now he's made it clear that if you come back, you'll be a liability." The word struck Finn like a blow. "A liability," he echoed, disbelief and rage mingling in his chest. "Is that what you think of me?" She flinched at the edge in his tone but pressed on, her words fracturing the fragile bonds between them. "It's not what I think, it's what the world thinks. And Bill can shield me from it. He can smooth the headlines, fund a PR team, make everything look wholesome again. I was wrong to let him, but I was desperate." Finn's face contorted with grief as he took a step back, the distance between them as stark as a canyon. "So you'd choose his money over my return?" he whispered. Steffi looked away, unable to meet his gaze. "I'd choose our family surviving this," she replied. In that moment, beneath the silent stars, they saw the truth. Their love, once forged in shared dreams, now lay on the brink of betrayal, a chasm carved by guilt, power, and the merciless calculus of survival. As midnight gave way to the cold dawn, Finn turned away from the pier and walked back into the emptiness of the night, each step a testament to the fracture that had formed between him and Steffi. She watched him go, her heart splintered, as the first hints of sunlight glinted on the restless sea, An uncertain horizon reflecting the perilous future of two families once bound by loyalty and love, now threatened by the very forces meant to protect them. In the space they left behind, the fragile alliance of alliances trembled, the Spencers, the Forresters, and the man who stood between them all, caught in the eye of a storm where guilt, power, and desperation would decide whether their dynasties would survive or fall into ruin together.